Only 5 on the shot clock, 5 on the game clock. They got to go quickly. Holman diving! Does it count? It does!
Welcome back. Episode 20 of the Mitchell Pehlke Lacrosse Show presented by Canons live on TLN. We're hopping right into it. Kev, Hoagie, how we doing?
Episode 20? Are you serious? We're on 20 episodes of this show?
20 episodes,
I can't
season
believe we're already
2,
on episode
stay tuned.
20. It's flying by. Let's go.
We might need to keep it like this. No Dukes. Comment below if you like it or don't like it. He's on vacation right now. It is what it is. First game, Canons over Archers, 9-8. Marcus Holman looked like he was back at Gilman, back at UNC with a little air gate action to win the game. Initial thoughts, Hoagie. I mean, we haven't seen that Marcus Holman in a while.
I mean, that was a Marcus Holman taking some authority. I mean, you saw him sprint to that end line, pick that thing up, and he was ready to get that quick restart right away, go right to the net. He was ready for that moment. I mean, it was a great game. Look, two of the top teams in the league, obviously the back-to-back champs of the Archers, and the Canons have won the last 2 champ series, so teams who know how to win these games. Kind of a defensive slugfest, another low-scoring game, but great end-to-end play on each way. Obviously, both goaltenders were great. Both teams were great. Canons played really well, honestly, from the start. The whole game looked like they might have given it away at the end there, but were able to, come back late, score that winner with 1 second, and move to 2-0 in the season.
Yeah, I love the way that Marcus Holman stepped up there at the end. He's just been their guy for so long. And when you look around the league and you see like some of the guys who look like they've lost a step, somehow Marcus Holman is still playing extremely good ball at 34 years old. And like an extremely athletic play too. Like he's clearly kept himself in great shape. Awesome moment to see. And 5 seconds left. It was like he was sitting on that the whole game. He had 1 2-pointer earlier in the game, but who would have expected with 5 seconds left, he's going to dodge to his left. I know the shot was backhand, but weak hand to win it, 1.4. And then if you heard him mic'd up, night. He was saying night. I love that he still like brings the chirp.
He's still like a young buck. He's an STX guy. I'm an STX guy. So whenever we see each other, we just chat lax. And a fun fact he told me was 99% of people, when they get over the age of 30, don't sprint. And it's something I always kept close to my heart because I just think it's so interesting. You look at him, a guy that puts on his Instagram story, still working on his agility, a guy that loves the game. Obviously, his father coaching him right now. But just showing the athleticism as an old guy and then still chirping the young bucks, that's why I love Marcus Holman.
Yeah, and it's crazy, too, if you look at it. The Canons, before that goal, or before the Ben Ramsey goal, we'll get into in a sec, they went scoreless for 12 minutes before that goal. Marcus Holman hadn't had a shot since the first quarter until mid-fourth quarter there. I mean, the Archers' defense was really anchoring down there to a degree as the game went on. Obviously, Utah went to take that lead late in the fourth, but to me, the 2 biggest plays here down the stretch, besides the Holman goal, obviously, to seal it and win the game, 2 big defensive plays by the Canons. First off, Ben Ramsey, the rookie from Notre Dame, the 4th-round pick, makes that play, comes all the way down, ties it. The bagpiper goes right down Main Street, puts it in to tie the game at 8. And then, again, ties the game at 8 after the Utah had just taken their first lead since the first quarter in that game. And then the biggest play, I think, that not many people really are talking about, Owen Grant stripping Tom Schreiber as he's sweeping across the top, coming out of a timeout. That was Coach Bates drew up that play. They were going to have Schreiber run across the middle. Owen Grant picks his pocket, creates that goal on the other side for Holman. 2 massive defensive plays there by that Canons defense. That's really what sealed this victory for them in the end.
And let's pause on there. And, Kev, I want you to take this next question over. What have we seen through the Archers in 2 games? Hold on. Specifically, this last game. Are we worried?
Look, they got to get their offense figured out. Statistically, their offense is the worst in the PLL right now. They're averaging only 8 goals a game, 8 points a game. And that's putting a lot of pressure on their defense, putting a lot of pressure on Dobson, who we knew from the podcast last week. We didn't
and the
show
fans
it.
didn't know. Fans didn't know. If you
But
take a
now
look,
everyone
you
knows.
see what's going on.
Now everyone knows, he got a little banged up. He finished the game, tough dude. But that's a lot of pressure that you're putting on not just Dobson, but that defensive unit with Warren Jeffrey, Graham Hossack, and Brendan Lavelle. That unit has been so good this year, but they got to find a way to put points on the board. And I'm thinking that maybe it might be time to switch things up a little bit on offense. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Mac O'Keefe doesn't have a single point this year.
Crazy.
I know.
Wow.
It's insane. I was shocked when I looked it up. And they're getting a lot of their offense from their midfield without Grant Ament and without Trey LeClaire. and it's been like Sam King and Dyson Williams. And I look at that Archer's attack, and I wonder if one of those two guys fits better at attack. We obviously know from his time at Harvard what Sam King can be as an ex-attackman. Do you maybe make the switch with him and McElroy, move McElroy to midfield? Again, remember, this is Chris Bates, who moved Grant Ament from attack to midfield, turned him into an all-pro midfielder of the year last year. Is it time to maybe make that switch with another guy? I think that McElroy is a prime candidate.
Yeah,
Open up that two-pointer.
Hoagie, for you, if you're Coach Bates, what decisions are you making?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm really not as concerned as most. Obviously, the offensive output has not been there. They have 16 goals through 2 games. Last year, through 2 games, they had 29 goals. So almost double the amount of goals last year through 2 games. So obviously, the offensive output is a concern for me. I'm not as concerned with the offense. I think, kind of like Kev mentioned, like the Archers have the injury bug. Obviously, the Dobson question mark moving forward is going to be a big concern. Obviously, it looks like Dobson's not an injury where it's like, oh, you're out and missing the year. It's kind of going to be a nagging injury, so it'll be interesting to see how Coach Bates plays that. Like, does Dauber sit out a couple weeks and get fully healthy, or is he just going to gut it through and play a little hurt all year? We'll see how that goes. But to me, once Grant Ament gets back from injury, Trey LeClaire, again, one of the most underrated players in this league in terms of production. He means a lot to that team. Hammer of a shot, great midfielder for them. I feel like they're going to be a team that's going to get better and better as the season rolls on and goes on. They kind of remind me of a team that, look, they need to just be able to get a couple wins and buy some time, if that makes sense, until they're kind of fully healthy. And then later in the year, once they're fully healthy, hopefully for the home stretch, they can try and go for a three-peat. So I'm not too concerned. I like Coach Bates. I think the defense is great. Graham Hossack, again, another one of those most underrated guys in the league. They got with Brendan Lavelle. Was great week 1, great again this week. So you got to look at their upcoming schedule and see who they play. But I'm not as concerned because I think they're going to be in every game moving forward. I think Schreiber's only going to get more comfortable. He's kind of had a little bit of a slow start to this year. Connor Fields looked great in week 1. I expect him to get back to that form. And then obviously Mac O'Keefe has no points so far. He's got to get on the board moving forward. But I'm not as concerned with the Archers as most. I think it's more just getting healthy and getting their feet wet.
There's obviously no worry that they have the talent, right? We've seen it obviously
I also
the
think
past
it's fair,
2 seasons.
too. They've played 2 of the best
thing.
teams in the league. They played the Atlas and the Canons first 2 weeks. Those are 2 tough games to go off the start of the year, too. So think about this. They could be 2-0 right now, too. They lost the game by 1 goal.
Yep. Kev, are the Canons the team to beat right now?
I think they're the team to beat right now. I know that they're not number 1 in the standings. The Redwoods are. They have the better score differential. Both teams are undefeated. But I think the Canons, what they've done, both ends of the field, they're outstanding. Jack Keelty, I think, is probably the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year right now. Ben Ramsey might be the steal of the draft. Hoagie just called out the play he made, end-to-end, turnover, goal on the other end, huge. And the big thing here is that, yeah, we mentioned Marcus Holman could still ball, but their best offensive player, Asher Nolting, isn't playing his best yet. He's only got 4 assists, no goals through the first 2 games, and they're winning. They commanded that game against the Atlas. They came back against the Archers. I think that there's still a lot of potential moving forward for this Canons team. They haven't hit their stride fully yet. Like once Asher starts dealing at an insane rate, once he finds the back of the net, then this team's going to be a potential juggernaut. But I still have them above the Redwoods right now as the team to beat in the PLL.
Hoagie, how does that make you feel as a Redwoods fan?
I mean, I think for me, looking at it, I think through the first 2 weeks, obviously, yeah, they look like the best team in the league in terms of resume and all that stuff. I misspoke a second ago talking about the Archers. They played the Whipsnakes. I meant the Canons, sorry. They played the Atlas and the Archers, 2 of the better teams in the league. So that's 2 impressive wins for them. Look, to me, the Canons probably are the team to beat right now. I think the Redwoods have something to say about that. I'd argue the Redwoods have looked more impressive on the actual field. Granted, they've played 2 lesser opponents in the Chaos and the Outlaws. I think the Redwoods have come out with pop and juice on offense, and they've kind of looked like one of those fun teams that looks like they're ready to explode at any moment. I feel like the Canons, to a degree, have kind of slugfest their way to a win. Obviously, I was really impressed with their fourth quarter in Albany a week ago against the Atlas, but this weekend they easily could have given that game away. Tons of scoreless droughts in this game. They won this game only scoring 9 goals, and if you look back in history, how many times do you win in a PLL game scoring 9 goals? So, to me, through 2 weeks, they're probably the team to be in the PLL. If I'm looking at it for the season, I'd probably say the Waterdogs, and I still have the Archers as the main teams to beat in this league. I think the Redwoods are there. I need to see more from the Redwoods, though, before I can really put them in that upper echelon category of full contenders, because it's kind of one of those things where you don't want to overestimate the 2 teams that they've played so far. No knock on the teams they've played, but they've probably played the bottom teams in the league. So
Well, the good thing is, Hoagie, we should have a better idea at this time next week because the Canons play the Waterdogs next week.
Yep.
The winner of that will likely be the front runner in the East. And then the Archers play the Redwoods next, and the winner of that will be the front runner in the West.
Yeah, because Friday in Philly is going to be one of the best weekends of PL lacrosse we've had in a while. I mean, both games Friday. The winner of the first game Friday, Philly and Boston, is going to be for first place in the East. The winner of the second game, Archers, Redwoods, that's for first place in the West. So it's first place games on the East and West Friday night. Two Titanic type matchups.
Getting it rolling.
Come on, Waterdogs weekend. But those are two Titanic matchups. We'll know a lot more at this time next week once we can kind of see how those results go.
100%. But I think we have an interesting voicemail that producer Corey teed up for us. So, again, we haven't heard this voicemail, so we're going to dive right into it.
Hey guys, Matt Nessler here. Pardon my voice. Just got back from celebrating my boy's bachelor party. Didn't catch a ton of the action this weekend, but myself and the Lehigh boys, we were able to sit down and watch some Colin Kirst highlights. It might not be a hot take, might be a hot take for some, not for me. I'm 1 for 1 so far with the other Kirst. I'm just gonna say it. Colin Kirst, best goalie in the world. It is what it is. You're gonna have to deal with it. And when he's hot, he's hot. Love you, Kirsty. Shout out my boy Austin Pierce. And Mitch, don't be afraid to put this one on the podcast, baby. Love you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Peace.
Nesty's a legend.
Fan of the program. We got to get him on here soon. Comment if you want Nesty on the channel. But Kev, Hoagie, I want you guys to take this one. Is Kirst best goalie in the world right now?
No, we just saw Blaze Reardon break the single game saves record. His own record, when they showed like the single game records, it was like Blaze Reardon. And I think Joe Keegs had a stat that there's only been like 20 games ever or whatever. And Blaze has 7 of them with 20 plus saves. So now it's still Blaze. I do think Kirst is part of that young contingent with Entenmann, and Dobson, who's coming up for that spot.
Yes.
But he's not quite there yet. The bigger question is, where does Kirst rank in that threesome?
Yeah, I mean,
100%.
Nessler there, not very media member like there with the take. A little bit of biased on the play from Nesty. We know the hometown friendship with Kirsty, but no, I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone would really say it's hard to say. I mean, how can you say he's the best in the world when you watch what Blaze has done for years? And I mean, Kirsty's an amazing goalkeeper. I think he's solidified himself in the upper portion of the league. I think if I was going to rank him right now with current goalies, I'd have him at 4th behind Entenmann, Dauber, and Blaze, which I think is fair. But obviously, Kirsty on the right day when he's hot is one of the best goalies in the world. So
he's hot.
I think I might put Kirst over Entenmann at this point.
Interesting. And Kev, I want to pose you this question. Hoagie and I talked off camera about this. I know his answer. Blaze Reardon, the best professional lacrosse goalie of all time?
He's definitely made a pretty good case for himself.
No. Give me your explanation.
All right, then I'll give it to him. I mean, what's he got? 5 Goalie of the Year awards?
I mean, come on.
At least in the PLL era, it's not even close. Maybe you could dig up someone from the MLL days and make a case for him, but they had longer games. They saw more shots. Their stats are going to be more inflated. So I'm riding with Blaze, especially with the way that you look at how the Chaos have had mediocre and bad seasons. And no matter what, Blaze always plays at a high level. No matter what, their defense always comes to play. And we've seen that defense and Blaze carry the team deep on playoff runs, including a championship. So I can't think of a single player who's more responsible for that continued success than Blaze Reardon. And that's why I think he's the best. I think he's the best goalie.
I mean, I think the simple point would be, where are the Chaos without Blaze Reardon over the last couple of years, to be honest with you? Like, they haven't been record-wise one of the better teams in the league, even with Blaze, but without him, are they maybe the worst team in the league for a couple of consecutive years now on end here, maybe at least 2? I mean, looking back on it, like, he won them that game Friday, which we'll talk about later. Like, he's won them how many games over the years, or kept them in how many games? And the biggest game I think of is last year's quarterfinal game, where they came in and just stole that one over the Canons in Boston at Gillette. Blaze with a career day, and no one thought the Chaos had any shot in that game last year. He propelled them there. Obviously led Chaos to a championship when they were the 6th seed back a couple of years ago. So to me, I mean, Blaze is the best goalie of all time. He's a legend. So how can it not?
I also got to give Nesty the shout out for that was a tough, gritty performance on that phone call. Just tough it out with the voice. Yeah,
Probably
it was
didn't
like
have a single sip of water in the past 48 hours, but that's nasty. That's why we love him. That's why we love him. But
Remind me of Dobson playing through the ankle injury.
I would
Playing
love to
through
see
the
like
ankle.
a camera on Nesty during a bachelor party weekend, like what he's getting into day in, day out.
Not even 1% of what he was doing is probably healthy. Gosh. All right, let's hop into game 2. Hoagie, your Woods over Chaos 16-10. The rookie class is continuing to dominate for California. Walk us through it. As a fan, as your squad, how does that make you feel?
No, I mean, I knew this was going to happen. The minute that Joe Spallina, Trader Joe, got on that GM role, I was like, all right, this team's going to be flipped in a second.
Can't doubt the Italian.
We've talked about it in the past, Mitch. I said this is kind of like when you bring in that veteran NFL coach or college coach. Like Nick Saban's at Purdue, they're probably in the playoffs in 2 years. Like they just flip it like that. Joe knows what he's doing, so I knew right away. And then Anthony Kelly was an amazing hire as a coach. Guy obviously had a ton of, played in the pros in the MLL days for years and well-respected guy. So I knew that once you get the staff right, the pieces kind of fall into place there. But no, I think the rookie class was obviously unbelievable. Andrew McAdorey, Sam English has not even played yet. Chris Kavanagh, the steal, getting him in the second round of the draft. And then, a guy like Carter Rice, who's been a great D-midi for the Woods since he's came back. He missed, or he didn't miss week 1. Actually, he played, I think, week 1 as well. So he's been amazing. And then you got to talk about John Balkersell, the Marist legend, number 34, coming in, bringing the jitterbug juice. He reminds me of a Jack Jasinski, Mitch, if you remember. The little buck out back in the day. The Marist fans have been showing out. But look, so impressive, the rookie class. I mean, I think they hit on every single pick, and we haven't even seen Sam English yet. Definitely laying the groundwork for the future of this team because these guys are contributing now, but these are guys you're going to have for years to come. I just think it's super impressive when you look at the numbers, really. I mean, Andrew McAdorey and Chris Kavanagh are both top 5 in the league in points. Yes. Chris Kavanagh has the most goals in the league. He also has the most touches in the league. So these are rookies who are Andrew McAdorey too, which is one of the crazy stats. I don't know how we want to count stats because, you got to take a minimum, obviously. But Andrew McAdorey's 4th in percentage in faceoffs in the league right now, which is obviously like he hasn't taken that many. But still, he's ranked 4th in percentage in the league in faceoffs. So they're doing it all over the place. These rookies are not just showing up and playing well. They're showing up with the league, too, when you look at the stats and the numbers.
100%. And we just chatted on the aspect of, like, Marcus Holman, the vet, still got it. Dylan Malloy, Ryder Garnsey, their guys are still doing it, too.
I mean, come
so
on.
Sick to see
Dylan
these guys.
Malloy leads the league in points right now. Who would have thought that after 2 weeks? Dylan Malloy and those OG Burns leading the PLL in points.
Still got it.
Dylan Malloy has been electric, and I got to shout out Hoagie earlier this year when we had Joe Spallina on, and he's like, Andrew McAdorey, he takes faceoffs, and we're kind of like, yeah, okay. Like, will he really? He really is actually making him take faceoffs. I love that. But I'm going to pump the brakes a little bit on the Redwoods being the best team. I know I said it already that the Canons are the team to beat right now. I think they're the more established team, but I'll give the Redwoods credit right now for being the most improved team. I know that the Waterdogs had the number 1 pick. I know they technically had the worst record. They were worse for curse, whatever. But if you look at the score differential, the Waterdogs lost a lot of games last year just by a single goal or 2 goals. Their point differential wasn't that bad. The Redwoods by far had the worst point differential in the league. They were minus 32. Now they're plus 9. I will say, I think that plus 9 has come against what I believe to be the 2 worst teams in the league in right now, the Outlaws and the Chaos. We'll see if that ends up being true. The Whipsnakes are making a case as well. But I got to say, those 3 rookies that we're talking about, the scoring is coming from Kavanagh. It's coming from McAdorey. It's coming from Balkersell on top of the Malloy and Garnsey. You mentioned, Hoagie, how they haven't even gotten Sam English yet. They haven't gotten Brendan Nickturn yet. Like, they have so much more to go, and I think that this team is not even close to peaking yet. They're going to get better as the season goes on.
100%. I think the defense, too, has been something that's really impressed me, too. Obviously, Chase Erland, first-year starter, he's been steady in net. I don't think the numbers necessarily pop off the page when you look at the physical box sheet score, but if you watch the game, he's held his own in net. And then Arden Cohen on defense leads the league in caused turnovers after 2 weeks, too. So he's been getting after it on the defensive end. Obviously, like I said before, I love Carter Rice and his ability. Joe Spallina talked about having guys kind of who plays 2 ways. I think back to the old Lizards games like Kevin Untersteins and all those kind of guys. D-middies can play a little offense. Guys can go both ways. So, yeah, I'm really impressed. I guess we'll learn everything you need to learn about the Redwoods after Friday night. They're playing the Archers, the Kings of the West, the back-to-back champs. Are the Archers a little wounded? Are they kind of like a little bit of a wounded animal out there? Yes. But to me, if you're the Redwoods, you got to take advantage of a game like this, right? You're up 9 on the goal differential right now. Archers are even at 0. So you're up 9 goals, which is huge when tiebreakers come later in the year. You got to take advantage of beating the Archers on a Friday night when they're a little wounded, move to 3-0, tick them another loss, move them down. But, if the Archers come out and kind of handle business against the Redwoods Friday, we're going to have to say, all right, let's really do pump the brakes. But we'll know everything about the Redwoods after Friday.
Well, obviously, no. This next week for lacrosse is going to be electric. Feel the atmosphere, the ones on both the East and the West. And, Kev, for you, I mentioned this earlier. I didn't really get an exact answer, but I want to hear your thoughts. If you're Coach Bates, you're going into this game. You're 0-2. You're playing the Woods, potentially the best team in the league. Are you making any decisions? Like, are you starting someone? Are you cutting someone? Are you making a goal change with Dobby not feeling great? Like, what are your initial thoughts on that decision?
I'm keeping everything the way it is on defense. Offense, I'm thinking about it. Offense, I'm thinking about it. I'm a little torn on what I would exactly do. I'd try out some things. I'd probably talk to Tom Schreiber. I'd talk to Grant Ament, some of the team leaders, and pick their ideas, get their ideas of who could be moved around and feel a little more successful. But Mac O'Keefe is one that I think I would move to midfield just for this week, see how it looks. And then maybe Dyson Williams at attack. Like, he's been their guy that's been most consistently putting the ball in the back of the net. Had a hat trick this past weekend, and you know that he can just can it on the crease. The dude just pumps out goals. That's what he does. So I look at the way that Jake Taylor has come in, and we'll talk about him in the Waterdogs. And I don't see that on the Archers. Like, where is that crease guy who's mucking it up in the middle, finishing everything? I think he could be really useful.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
And you got to think too, Mitch. Obviously, we're thinking mentally right now. It's only week 2. It's early in the season, but this season moves fast. After Friday, you're 1/3. You only play 10 games, so you're going to have 3 games under your belt. You're almost 1/3 done with your season already. So, you got to stack wins fast in this league. So if you're going to make adjustments, you got to figure them out quick and figure out what you want to move and what you want to change. But you also can't, like we talked about, like rest a Dauber or a lot of guys to be like, oh well, we can afford a couple losses here. We'll get healthy by the end of it, because by the time you're back to normal, there's 3 games left, and you might have dug yourself too deep. So you got to figure it out quick. All these teams, but especially the Archers.
Kev, for you, I know you have on this notes here, the Redwoods haven't even peaked yet. Why is that?
No, because I think that it's all young guys who are doing a lot of their, outside of Malloy, outside of Garnsey, it's young guys who are doing all the production. I mentioned earlier, I said Sam English and Nick Turn, we haven't even seen him yet. Once they get into the fold, and also, breaking news, there was a trade today. I know we were penciled in to talk about it later.
No, but dive into it right now. Explain to the fans.
They just traded with the Outlaws to pick up Sam Handley. It's a little bit of a head scratcher to me. Like, it feels like, man, like 3rd round pick, Sam Handley, why not? But you're telling me the Redwoods picked up a super athletic, big body midfielder who can't quite unlock himself? Sounds a lot like one they already had in Romar Dennis. So I don't know. Now you got another one. I swear, whoever they have to deactivate, it better not be Josh Balkersell. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. You got to keep he's rolling, right? It's kind of like that new guy that has it going on. You can't cut him. Hoagie, for you as a Redwoods fan, do you like that trade?
For me, the Sam Handley trade, I can see a little bit of both sides. I see where Joe's coming from. Like, Joe looks at it and goes, look, I'll give up a 3rd round pick next year. Get a guy like Sam Handley, who, let's be real, he has not translated to the PLL. He was dominant at Penn in college and just has not been himself since he's come into the league.
Was he even, though, dominant at Penn? I feel like he had dominant moments, but he was ultimately, like, even at Penn.
I guess whether you want to say
he went into his senior year as a national preseason player of the year, and then he wasn't even a Tewaaraton finalist.
I guess whether you want to say he played well
I felt
or
like the hype around him was so
Yeah.
manufactured around the draft just because he had like an NFL caliber body. But to me, when I watched him, he had a handful of games that he took over.
Yeah, I think it's fair. Whatever you want to say about his talent or whatever, the media and everyone was pushing him as going to be a star, generational player, great player once he came to the league. So he had a lot of hype is what I'm trying to get at, I guess.
Gotcha, yeah.
So for Joe, I think he sees that and sees the physical traits and is like, I'll toss a 3rd round pick, and if he's a stud and I figure him out and he somehow change of scenery works for him, I look like a legend. And if he's not good, then I just cut him. That's kind of where I think Joe's looking at it from. On the flip side of that, though, I haven't seen enough from Sam Handley to really think that he's going to do that much and make that big of a difference with that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what
I kind of don't want to insert him into my team after my team's kind of loading. Team's kind of rolling. I think sometimes you insert someone new in, it could mess with the mojo to a bit. Plus, look, there's so many good players in this league. Do I really want to give up a 3rd-round pick? Seriously. Think about how many good players
Joe Spallina was just like itching? He was like, I've made a trade in like 2 weeks.
He needed to get
like,
the trade off.
Trader Joe.
Deal somebody.
But I'm thinking,
I
like,
also
get it
wonder
going.
if he was kind of making up for a little bit of a mistake he realized too. His 4th round
was
pick
what?
His 4th round pick was Griffin Schutz.
Griffin Schutz, yeah.
Just hasn't been with the team. So
yeah.
like I wonder if maybe that's a similar type of midfield that we're talking about. And maybe being like, all right, I missed on that one, and this one will cost me a 3rd round next year, but that's what it costs for me to fix my error.
I mean, if you're asking me, I'm probably keeping that 3rd-round pick. I think personally, I'd rather take a flyer on a college guy that we've seen a lot of value. Guys like even Chris Cav fall into the 2nd round. Like guys fall to TJ Malone was a 3rd-round pick. So like there's guys available in that 3rd-round pick of the college draft. So you do have to have some belief in Sam Handley that you think he can play for you and be a star if you're going to give up a good pick like that in the draft, whether it's a 3rd round or not. So I just think he sees the potential, and he's like, you know what? I'll throw a flyer on this kid. If he's no good, I'll cut him. That's kind of how I see him doing it. Whether it's the right decision, we'll find out soon.
One last note on that. Joe Spallina was there in Charlotte, with it. He doesn't have to be. He's a GM. He doesn't have to travel with the team. He's not coaching on game days, but he was there in the locker room celebrating with them after the win. I think he's got a feel for that locker room, and he's making it his own. So I do feel somewhat confident that he's not going to mess with the mojo by bringing in, a Sam Handley. Like I think he has a good idea of where his team stands.
No, I think I trust Joe honestly more than anyone. If I had to pick a GM, I want Joe leading my team, building my team.
Honestly, he's a trailblazer in this kind of, obviously it's a new role in general in the PLL, but like this, how to be a GM that's boots in the ground with the boys in the trenches too, right? Kelly McKeown is a head coach too, and I wonder, we obviously don't know from the media side, but like I wonder how many conversations they're having, right? Doing this trade, was that a Kelly move? Was that a Trader Joe move, or was that both? Like, I'm so curious, and to you guys, like, do you think, and I just think with Trader Joe and how he operates, like, he's Italian, and obviously we say this a lot, but like, it's the family atmosphere, and I think that's what he's building there.
Yeah,
I think so too. Yeah,
I also think too, you got to look how many coaches after this year are we going to look and say, does a Bates or does a Stagnita say, look,
yes,
I'm going to hire a GM and kind of, I'll let them manage the roster and I'll try and coach. Like, obviously some guys are still going to want to do both, but do teams see this and say, if I'm Chris Bates, Stagnita, even like a Bill Tierney, do I be like, look, I kind of want to just coach ball. Let me have someone else kind of handle the ins and outs. It seems to be working for the Redwoods. That might be a blueprint for other teams to say, all right, I'm going to hire a GM, someone else who I can go, when I have a thought, hey, what do you think we should do here? I have someone to call, really, besides just your assistant, someone in the back end. I think that could be a blueprint for the future.
Yeah, and I think we need next year. I really wanted it this year. Was like some sort of behind the scenes, like Hard Knocks style thing, which is like also always kind of focused on like the roster building aspect, which is like lends itself to the GMs. But I would particularly like to see the differences. Like there's 2 teams, the Chaos and the Redwoods, who have GMs right now. I would love to see like how are they operating differently? What are they doing that's the same? Are there ways that Joe Spallina is like miles ahead of Spencer Ford right now? I don't know, because it's all behind closed doors.
Yeah. I know, it's going to be interesting. And I think as the league continues to evolve, I think soon enough, I would say in 3 years, every team's going to have a GM.
Yeah,
I would say potentially
100%.
even sooner than that. I think, again, Trader Joe is trailblazing, and same with Spencer Ford, this aspect of GMs. And obviously the Chaos haven't performed as much as the Redwoods, but I think Trader Joe is setting the precedent of if you want to be great in this league, you need a GM.
I also thought it was interesting, too, when we had Joe on a couple weeks ago. He said he had been asked a lot in the past to take a head coaching role, and he didn't want to take the head coaching role. He wanted specifically the GM role. I thought was pretty cool, too.
Yeah.
Of like kind of looking at sports and how we're trying to grow the PLL in the future, right? Like you look at the NFL teams, like they have a head coach and a GM. Like Joe being like, look, he's been a head coach in the pros, obviously for the men's side, head coach of women's Stony Brook right now, had opportunities to be a head coach in the league and goes, I don't really want that role right now, but I'd love to be a GM. I think that's kind of cool in the future for just
and I remember Joe got hired before Kelly, correct?
Yes, Joe got hired before Kelly.
They
announced Joe the minute they announced them simultaneously. Like when Nat left, it was like Nat's leaving and Joe's the GM. Like that was announced.
Yeah, but
together.
I wonder what that interview process was like. It was probably somebody at the league, Joe, and really kind of making that conversation happen. And I wonder who else was in the running. Like, I don't think Trader Joe and Kelly really had any serious background of really knowing each other But it would have just been interesting, again, to you, Kev, to have that Hard Knocks aspect, to have the vlog camera in Joe's ear of just what's going on with him as he makes that pick.
Yeah, no, I would love to see that. I would love to, something that takes us from the draft to, and like a little pre-draft so we can see like them scouting, and then the draft, and then it takes you through that month where they're like watching their draft picks in college, like, and then to training camp, and then it probably like, week 1, and then it's probably over.
Yeah.
But that would be sick. I would watch that.
It'll be sick.
That would be so
sick. We had to make
maybe a TLN original, Kev.
Yeah. Stay tuned. I like that. Let's keep going with the weekend. The Waterdogs, first week of their season, they dominate 16-12 over the Whipsnakes. No CJ Curse, but they look good. Talk to us.
Yeah, they might not even need CJ Curse.
Yeah,
maybe they don't need him.
They might not.
Honestly, like, though, if you're looking at this offense, like, Hoagie, where would you put him?
Yeah, I know.
Who you pushing aside?
It's unbelievable because, we talked about, like, remember we were like, are they going to trade the pick because they genuinely, like, don't need them? And then they're like, absolutely not. Like, he's the best player in years, generational player. We're taking him whether we need him or not. But, I mean, yeah, that's interesting to see where he lies. Obviously, he's going to be out 4 to 6 weeks. He got surgery on his hand. Tierney confirmed they are hopeful, and they're expecting him to be back for that July 11th weekend in Chicago after the All-Star break. He confirmed that on the broadcast. So that's like the target date for his return. That's a throwback weekend, too, in the PLL. So we might see Curse first action in the throwback Waterdogs uniforms, which would be
sick.
Pretty sick at that Northwestern Women's Lacrosse Stadium, which is sick out there, too. So that's the plan right now. It'll be interesting. I mean, the team's humming. I think the interesting point that I heard, I don't know if you guys heard this as well, was Tierney said he told Sowers and all those guys after last year was, let's be real, it was a disaster. They had all the talent in the world. They didn't play well. They ended up winning 2 games. And did they get unlucky a lot? Yes, of course. You watch them, you're like, how does this team? They basically just found new ways to lose every single week. It was like almost comical at one point. It was like, all right, how can these guys lose this week? They just outdid themselves from last week. But Tierney said he told Sowers and those guys at the top, he's like, look, we did it your way last year. I'm doing it my way this year. He was like, completely culture. I'm doing it my way. You guys did it your way last year. Look what happened. We're doing it my way this year. Obviously, the sample size is slow. It's small. It's 1 game. But the team just looks like they got a little extra. I don't know. Tierney's injecting that Princeton, Denver legacy stuff right in there, the culture-wise, which, as we know in the league, some teams have more of a culture than others, more of an identity than others. But I think that was an interesting point that I heard when Tierney was like, we're doing it my way this year. And if it doesn't work, then maybe you can come at me. But
so are you playing him at attack? Curse when he comes back?
I feel like I'd play him probably at lefty attack. I mean, Sowers still has to play that X spot.
Kieran McArdle, I think he saw the lineup cards with putting Curse in his spot because he had a first quarter hat trick, finished with 6 points. I mean, Kieran McArdle looks, he's got that same vibe as Marcus Holman of like ageless wonder. He's not slowing down at all. It's obviously not going to be Sowers. I would have said, hey, he could be that crease guy, but Jake Taylor is like the guy.
Yeah, he's the guy. He's the guy.
I don't know if you saw this little clip that Waterdogs posted, but it was from Sowers' press conference, Sowers and McArdle talking about Jake Taylor. And this is coming from Sowers, who just had 7 assists. He's like, Jake Taylor is a true quarterback off ball.
Frankly, he brings a skill set that we just didn't have. And I think that not many people in the league have it, if anybody. I think the best way to describe him is he's like a true quarterback off the ball.
And it's like, okay, holy cow. If you got a guy who's dishing 7 assists and he says another guy's the quarterback, like, that's crazy. And then you look at the midfield. It's like, okay, fine. Well, can Curse run through the box? Sure. But Jack Hanna and Thomas McConvey both had hat tricks.
Yeah.
Connor Kelly had probably the best 2-way play of the season so far when he strapped up Levi Anderson and then scored on the other end. That was amazing midfielder play. And then they also got Zach Currier. So where does CJ Curse fit in? Obviously, he's an electric talent. They'll find a way. But I'm looking at this lineup and I'm like, I don't know where. Like, you got to push someone aside.
Do you think, in your eyes, do you think Tierney runs Taylor out of the box to continue to play that crease role? And he's like an offensive midi, right? So it goes back on defense. He's not getting in. But do you think that's the play? Because I think that's the only option. You're not taking Kieran. You're not taking Sowers out. You take Taylor out. CJ's down there. But then Jake still needs to play that crease role, so it's tough.
Yeah. That is a tough one, especially because Jake Taylor is not the – I mean, this guy's had 3 ACL injuries. He's not the fastest dude, like running in and out of the box, like especially at the PLL level where you got to move. So that'll be an interesting one. I feel like, I almost feel like Jake Taylor's got to stay there. Like, then do you say, like, are we really saying Kieran McArdle's running through the box? Like, that's really like what it is, I think. I think we say Kieran McArdle's
I've been
running
on
through the
record
box.
here. I mean, I've been on record saying multiple times Kieran McArdle's the most underrated player in the league. I think he has been forever, even back to his days in college when he was at St. John's. I remember going to watch him play at St. John's back when I was way younger. But, I mean, his production the last couple of years is just, throughout his whole career, quite frankly, has been unbelievable. I do think you got to keep Jake Taylor down there. I personally think this has got to be McArdle moving up to midfield, have Kirsty down there, get him comfortable. He's going to be the future of that team with Sowers. As much as the great duo right now is McArdle and Sowers, one of the best duos in the league, we're looking in the future. That duo is then going to be moved to Sowers and Kirst. So we got to get Kirst down there. We got to get comfortable. And I think McArdle can play that midfield role well. I think he can adjust to that position a lot, but both of those guys, I mean, electric. Like you said, Kev, first quarter hat trick. He had 4 goals in that game. Michael Sowers had 8 points. Michael Sowers is second in the league right now in points, and he only played 1 game. So if he played 2, he's in first place in the league right now. He's the early front runner for MVP, I think, right now.
Who should the MVP should have been?
Who should the MVP should have been?
Front
Michael Sowers, front runner right now for MVP, if you're looking at it. But Waterdogs, I mean, they won 2 games all last year. They're already 1-0. They're homecoming this weekend in Philly. If they can get Friday, I think they definitely get Saturday on Saturday Night Lacrosse. We'll talk later.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're going to be in good shape moving forward with this team. I think the team's a little different, and even this game too. They got unlucky. They had that unorthodox 2-bomb that went in. The unluckiness still was carried into this year.
It definitely happens. I mean, get the rust off a little bit. Tierney knows how to do that. But let's jump to the Whipsnakes. Are they in serious trouble?
Dog, unfortunately, I feel like they have a Matt Rambo-sized problem.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you fix it because he's obviously former MVP, such a superstar, and we saw him get benched in the 4th quarter. He doesn't have a point this year. Doesn't even have an assist. And when you go back and watch the film, when Stagg says he hasn't done anything yet, it's not necessarily he hasn't done anything yet, like he hasn't found the back of the net, he hasn't assisted. He's like hardly even dodging. He's like parked on the crease, just kind of a non-factor, if you ask me. So they put Levi Anderson at the end of the game. To me, he's a little more dynamic from a dodging standpoint, but from what we've seen Levi Anderson in the pros, he's really only dodged against short sticks. Like when he does that patented swim move, he's only ever done it on shorties. Okay, you're starting him at attack and all of a sudden you got a long pole down there. I don't know if that's going to be as effective. I don't know what you do with Matt Rambo too, because he's such a star. You can't just bench him moving forward, right? You can't go into this game and be like, oh, Matt Rambo, he's inactive or he's backing up.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
I think it's a tough situation because to me, when you think of the Whipsnakes, I think the first team that probably comes to mind, the first player that comes to mind is Matt Rambo, right?
Yeah,
former
100%.
MVP, led them to those championship games. Obviously, he had that game winner in overtime in the inaugural season of the PLL back in 2019. So Rambo, to a degree, is the face of the Whipsnakes franchise since their inception, right? Like he has been, and his boy Colin Heacock too, who both those guys we've had on the show. Those guys are lock and step boys. Like Heacock hasn't even been on the starting roster, like the active roster. He's been on the protected the first 2 weeks. So 2 of those main kind of piece guys, culture-wise guys who've been there, Heacock, Rambo, haven't lived up to standards so far after 2 weeks. I definitely say the Whipsnakes, I think, are in massive trouble. I know they went 0-2 to start last year. Same thing as this year, started 0-2, and then they turned it around, won 4 straight into the All-Star break, ended up going all the way to the championship game last year, got hot in the end of the year. To me, if there's one coach that I trust in this league more than anyone, it's Jim Stagnita. He knows what he's doing. I trust him almost with anything, game plans, decisions, roster moves, all that stuff. Everyone want to say cutting Will Manny was a bad decision. Look at what TJ Malone did last year. So Staggs is a legend. He's going to get it figured out. The problem
but
is
Hoagie, about that though, wouldn't you rather have Will Manny than Matt Rambo right now as a lefty?
Yeah.
Especially if Rambo's not a Dodger anymore.
That is true.
If Rambo's going to be parked on the crease, wouldn't you rather have Will Manny working that off-ball role?
Yeah, that's fair. But I think the bigger issue too with
secondly, hold on, we got to talk about the other big move they made this past offseason when Stagnita is lucky that Zed Williams isn't playing right now because he's hurt. Obviously, no one wishes Zed Williams was hurt, but they are not getting out of Matt Brandow what they had in Zed Williams last year.
Yes,
That's
correct.
That's back-to-back years. 2 years ago, Will Manny led the team in points, cut him. Last year, Zed Williams led the team in goals, traded him away.
Yep.
You know, I think Staggs got to be under the microscope for some of these roster decisions.
Oh, without a doubt, he has to be under the microscope. I think, to me, TJ Malone, Kev, we talked about this Saturday. He's a superstar in this league. I think he should be one of the faces of the league. He's a can't-miss star in this league. I think he's arrived. I think he's here, Mitch, officially, where it's like he's a top 10 player in this league. He's a franchise guy. He's a stud guy. Malone's here. He's the Whipsnakes face now, right?
Yes.
Brad Smith coming back. He had 2 2-point goals this weekend. He's going to be a stretch shooter for them. He's definitely going to help. He missed all last year with injury. Carroll obviously has looked pretty good so far for a rookie. You know, obviously numbers don't jump off the page, but he's done a good job there. To me, the two big things we'll talk about, one that they're really in trouble with is the Eastern Conference is loaded, right?
Yes.
The Waterdogs, the
I was gonna
Canons,
say
the
that.
Atlas. So there's no room for them to be like, you know, in the West, the Redwoods, the Chaos, and the Outlaws could shuffle around. You make your way back. Like, there could be a way where there's like a massive gap where like the Whipsnakes are just alone at the bottom and they're trailing everyone at the top by a couple. Like, to me, that is the big play, and they play the Atlas this weekend. So that's a big game to be for the bottom of the East right now. And I also talked about this with Kev, Mitch. I want to know what your thoughts are, and Kev, we can talk too on the goalie change that Staggs made. He didn't start Brendan Krebs this week. Started Emmett Carroll in goal. Obviously, they drafted him. I had my thoughts on it. I'd like to hear what you guys' thoughts were first, and then I'll dive into my thoughts on it. But that was a big play.
For me, like I don't love that play, and I think from a reasoning of I'm a big guy of like you got to look at last year and what they did. How they started was iffy, but kind of where they ended up. I know they couldn't get it done in the big game, but like you still have to give credit where credit's due, right? It kind of it's not the same thing as the Timmy Entenmann situation as last year, but like Krebs had his first like season start last year. To go into game one, doesn't play great, and then game two, that's it. Like, it also just shows that's Staggs, right? You know, same thing with Manny, same thing with Kev, what you just said, cutting Zeddy. But, like, I'm not the biggest fan of that. And I think Krebs deserves his flowers and a chance to get back after it. But, again, they didn't win again, and we could see Krebs back in cage in week 3.
Yeah, I'm not really 100% sure what the reasoning was behind that. And I'm curious what, like, the Staggs thinks of Brendan Krebs, like, as a goalie, especially when you think about, like, Brendan Krebs kind of found his way into the starting lineup. Like, I think even last year, Bernlohr started the season as the starter for, like, the first game.
And
then, right. And then Brendan Krebs was kind of their anchor on defense and, like, held it together, and they get all the way to the championship game. And obviously everyone's been talking about how great he was and a great story he was. But I don't know. I wonder if Staggs just didn't feel like he was like his hand-picked guy. You know what I mean? Because I remember even at Champ Series, before it was announced that Bernlohr was retiring, he was like, yeah, we have a goalie retirement that we need to fill that hole. So I wonder if then he's thinking like, in his mind, has Brendan Krebs never been able to shake like the backup label to Stagnita? And like, maybe he just, I think it had more to do with he loves Emmett Carroll as a prospect and as a potential PLL starting goalie.
Krebs, though, showed it, though, mid-season last year. I mean, throughout mid-year last year, like, we knew Krebs was the starter for the rest of the year.
Right.
I think it was a terrible move, personally. I think it was a really bad move. I know Emmett Carroll had a great college career. I know they drafted him. But to me, when I really look at it, Brendan Krebs, I think last year in the second half of the year, you could have argued him and Kirsty were fighting for probably the fourth best goalie in the world down the stretch. I mean, Krebs had an amazing second half of the year last year. He really did. Yeah. You know, he fits the build. When you look at him, he's tall, he's lanky, he makes plays. But to me, like, Krebsy didn't have a game under 40% last year. His lowest game was about 42%. So in a league like this, that's pretty steady. You know, he was low 40s. I think he was 40% against the Archers in week 1 in a rainy game, in a low-scoring game. I really don't think you can hold that against him. I think he was your goalie all last year. He played well. Like, I said it before, and I'm kind of peeling back my words a little bit. Obviously, I love Staggs, and I trust Staggs, but I do question this decision because I feel like when you lose a game the week 1 to the defending champs by 1 goal, you're not far off. Yep. To make a change the next week under the lights, just throw a rookie in there against an electric offense like the Waterdogs, I don't know if that's the right play, Mitch. You know, I get it if it's, you know, maybe a 1 o'clock game against the Chaos, see what I got in Emmett Carroll. But, I mean, I think, you know, to take Krebs, I know you're playing mind games with the goalies. Kevin and I talked about this too. Yeah. we said the minute you pull a goalie, you can't really. It's hard to go back and forth. It's like you got to make the move, and that's the move. So what are they going to do Saturday? Is it Krebs or is it McElroy?
Well, I think the biggest thing we have to realize is Stags is Stags. Stags is Stags. And Hoagie, we talked about this off air. I think he's 6 or 7 wins away from the most career coaching professional wins of all time.
Winningest coach in pro lacrosse.
Yeah, so he knows how to get it done. I don't think we're ever questioning that. But to make a change like this in this moment with what we had last year, it just doesn't add up. But again, with the situation with Will Manning last year, we were probably clowning on him too, but they got back.
Well, I also didn't even see this coming. I sat down to watch the game, and I literally tweeted, wait, why is Krebs not in the cage? Like, I was confused.
Yeah.
Like, some weeks, you're like, oh, they're probably going to make a change, or I could see a change happening. It's like, no, like, literally, I was like, wait, Krebs is not playing? Like, what is going on here? Like, confused.
Emma Carroll's got to go back to the sweats, too. Don't like when a goalie is wearing sweats in college. I know you're playing in the summer now. I know it's hot. You got it. Sweats.
You got to keep it going. You got to.
And in Emma Carroll's defense, I mean, he was 38% in the day, which isn't great. He is a rookie, but I mean, a lot of the goals were in tight finishes on the crease, backdoor cuts. I mean, to a degree, it's a mix of like he was a rookie, and obviously you're not going to have your best game first game, but then also like the defense wasn't helping him out at all either. So.
Yeah, no, I mean it wasn't the Whips day. We can put it at that. But no, let's wrap up this past week games. Chaos, obviously at home, they go back to back. So they start and finish, but they beat probably one of the biggest games of the weekend with Jared Bernhardt. Chaos beat the Outlaws 12-9. And I want to start on the Outlaws. Like I just mentioned, Jared Bernhardt back. We heard about it earlier this year. I know Kev, Hoagie, you guys probably went crazy on Twitter. But Jared Bernhardt, I want to start out with one of his first opening shots to do an air gate. Like, come on. Are you serious? I mean, if he made that would have blew up the lacrosse world and set the tone. Jared Bernhardt is back.
Mitch, we'd be living in a different world if Jared Bernhardt hit that shot. But to me, what I took away from that shot, if you remember, misses it, they go right down the field, Chaos do, score. To me, that felt like the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, okay, if you're the Outlaws, they're like, we tried everything. You know, we cannot score on Blaze Rudin. Like, we've emptied the bag. There's nothing left. The last thing that came out was Jared Bernhardt air gate in his first game back on a lacrosse field in 4 years. Okay, out of ideas. Like, that's the way I took it. And I don't know, maybe they scored one more time after that. I think Graham Bundy had a late 2-pointer in the game to make it look not as bad as it was. But it was not a great offensive showing, and it was an outstanding performance by Blaze Rudin in net.
Yeah, I'm really concerned from kind of what I've seen from the Outlaws through the first 2 weeks of the season. Look, to me, in the preseason, the Outlaws were going to be my team that I thought was going to surprise a lot of teams. Obviously, I didn't think they were going to win the championship, but I thought they were going to be a team that, you know, maybe they finish second in the West and make a semifinal, or, you know, if something went their way, who knows, they could end up in a championship game. I thought they were going to take that next step. Through 2 weeks, I haven't seen it. They have a ton of talent on offense. Obviously, Pat Kavanagh, Brendan O'Neill, Logan Wisnowski, Jared Bernhardt. We talk about how they have 4 Tewaaraton winners all the time, right? And look, obviously Jared Bernhardt, 0 points, and it's going to take him a couple games. Whether you say he's been training, the reports where he's been training and getting after it, you can't simulate live reps. You can't simulate being on the field. It's going to take him a couple weeks to really get his feet wet and get back into the game. But I don't know. Offensively, it just hasn't looked great for that team. Both games. Like,
what do you think is the real
just seems like something stagnant. Like, they're kind of just going through the motions to a degree, right? Like, the Redwoods, they didn't look too particularly that great. And then, you know, granted, Blaze had a career day, 25 saves, PLO career record. But still, though, the offense, it wasn't like, you know, they were clicking on all cylinders and Blaze was just total hero. Obviously, if Blaze didn't play total hero, the Outlaws win that game. But I guess what I'm trying to say is if you really watched it, Mitch, like, it wasn't like they were blowing you off the page and they were just like, oh, Blaze is total robbery. Like, the offense still didn't look like it was fully clicking.
Yeah. It's too much one-on-one isolation ball. I got some numbers from Joe Keegs earlier today, and they're last in the league by a wide margin on assist opportunities and percentage of assisted shots. And they just don't have a guy right now. Last year it was Zawada was their guy who had their most assist opportunities. And this year they just don't really have a guy. They're hovering around like 16% of their shots are assisted. So they've got to find a way to play better team offense with all those guys. They brought in a lot of talent, a lot of guys who want to take it to the net and score, but they got to find a way to play better together. And I'm not quite sure I see that yet.
Oh man, it's tough because you look top down, paper to pen, right? They have the guys. We talk about the Tortons, obviously that's the talk of the town, but like, is it a coaching issue?
No, I think Sudan's won a lot. He's kind of another one of those guys like Staggs. He's been a professional coach for how long now too, Mitch? I mean, he's been there, done that. Like, I think Sudan knows what he's doing. I kind of talked to Kev about this too the other day. It kind of feels like the point I had about Duke earlier in the year, Mitch, where they have like so much talent, but then the team just doesn't click. It kind of feels like that to a degree, where they have all these Tewaaraton winners, all these young stars. We're not even talking about guys like Luke Weirman, too, another young player, Graham Bundy, another young player, with all those young Tewaaraton guys. And I still count Wisnauskas and those guys young. They graduated 2 years ago. I'm talking like all that core, but it just doesn't click, kind of like the Duke teams where they have all the talent and, they lose in the first round, like I mentioned a couple episodes back. I don't know if you think it could be similar in a way. I don't know if it's something like that it just doesn't look right.
If we're going to call out the coaching, I mean, I think there's a couple of things we can look at. One being the goalie situation. You know, should they move to Logan McNaney? Owen McElroy has not been great. He was really bad in the first half of that game. I know we've talked about, you don't want to ping pong. You don't want to flip flop between two goalies. Okay, why don't you make a change at halftime? Why don't you see what you got in Logan McNaney at halftime? That's not like committing to Logan McNaney as a starting goalie. You can still roll Owen McElroy out there the next week. And then another thing that I would consider doing is I would mix in some reps for Brendan O'Neill at midfield. See if you can unlock what they found at the World Championships when he was on a loaded roster, just like Denver's currently, and he was able to run through the box with a favorable matchup and take advantage of it. I think when you watch Brendan O'Neill play, so much of his scoring is downhill dodging, sweeps across the top, whether they're from the midfield area or the high lefty wing. That's where he's most comfortable. I think as Jared Bernhardt becomes a bigger part of this offense, he had 5 shots on 17 touches. That dude's a volume guy. He's a volume guy. He's going to need a lot of touches, a lot of tries. And I think he's going to want to play behind the net. And something's got to give there. I think if you move Brendan O'Neill, not full-time, mix it up, let Bernhardt run some midfield, let O'Neill run some midfield. But when Bernhardt's on attack, obviously Pat Cav's staying on attack. That's probably why he's not with the Canons anymore. And then you re-establish the connection with Wisnauskas and Bernhardt, which was so successful at Maryland. And then you also have that potential for Brendan O'Neill, where we saw in the World Championships, where he can be dominant in midfield, and it also unlocks his 2-point potential because he'll be on the backside of the formation, up top. I like that idea, and it's at least something to switch it up when your offense is going completely stagnant.
Yeah, I think, too, when you watch Brennan, when he's been at his best, has been when he's in the open field, kind of just taking it himself and making something crazy happen, right? He has had moments where we've talked about in the past, back out to college, too, where he's kind of faded away in games in the 6-on-6 set, right? He's been able to create himself and create goals, create scoring opportunities, and really those wow plays that he's known for through a lot of, late transition, kind of guys subbing, open field, like when he's kind of just moving around, doing his own kind of thing rather than being in the set 6-on-6 selection area, which I think could be a play there, Kev. I like that move a lot, to move him, give him some reps there and see how that kind of fits and molds.
Yeah, the 100%. One problem with that, though, is that he had 3 goals in this game. All 3 of them were in early offense.
Yeah.
One was a ground ball in transition. Yep. The other 2 were in the 32-second shot clock off a face-off. So the counter argument would be, if you put him in midfield, he's not on the field for any of those 3 goals.
Yeah.
So
going to the goalie position, too, that you were mentioning, too.
Yeah, what would you guys do?
I think the play that you just mentioned is true. I think that tells you where Sudan is thinking personally. If he really was close to making a change, he would have done that at some point in that game. To me, I'm in the belief I think Owen McElroy should still be the starter. I think he deserves to still be the starter. To me, this is the guy who has been your starter for the last 2 years.
Why,
right?
though?
And he's been your starter
for the last... Why does he deserve it? Why does he deserve it?
This is my opinion on the situation. He's been the starter the last 2 years there, okay? This is the guy who...
And they were how good?
This is the guy who 2 weeks ago, Tim Sudan said was the best player on the team in training camp. The best player on the roster.
That to me sounds like something a coach puts out there in the media so the goalie reads it and it gets his confidence
I
up.
think personally, I think he deserves...
like that, Kev.
I think...
That's what I think. You have 3 other Tewaaraton winners on the field in training camp, and you're telling me the goalie who's struggling is the best player on the field?
No, I just think he deserves the right to start another week. I personally do. I think he deserves this weekend. Why?
Why does he deserve something? Like, what has he done to deserve that?
I just think, personally, if I was the coach, I'm looking at this weekend, you're playing the Waterdogs in Philly on their homecoming game. You're in the Saturday Night Lacrosse slot this week, 7 p.m., okay? I know Logan McNaney is star power. I know he's has years under his belt. They say he's 50 years old, college player, he's a grandpa. He's got the experience. We saw what McElroy happened to him last week, starting under the lights in your first rookie start. I think you let Owen McElroy play this weekend under the lights, a game you need to win. I don't think you want to rush in a rookie under the lights. I think you personally start Owen this weekend. If you want to evaluate after that, fair. I think he deserves to get at least another week as the start of this team. That's just my personal opinion. I don't like the shuffling. I think once you make the decision, you have to make the decision, like Kev said. I think you give him another week, see where you're at, and then you can evaluate from there. So it clearly shows you where Sudan is thinking what you said before, Kev.
To me, that sounds like someone who doesn't have faith in Logan McNaney to step up and be the spark for a team.
I do have faith in Logan.
I do have faith in Logan. Compare Logan McNaney and McElroy?
No,
we just did there?
I'm comparing.
Kind of just did there.
I'm comparing the ways of starting a rookie in a night game in their first start. Yes, I am comparing them in that way. Yes.
For the record, I was higher on McElroy than Logan McNaney coming out of college.
We
got to see him on the field.
I was higher than McNaney. I was higher than McNaney and McElroy.
But if you're gonna spend the 10th overall pick, on a guy, it's basically a first rounder. And especially if you don't have a first round pick.
This is the same situation, not the same situation, but this is very similar to Troutner and Entman, where we didn't even have the argument because they were winning.
Yes.
Jimmy was killing it with the guys. Yeah. When that started to fade, we knew it was the right call to do it. But this situation is different. They're 0-2. We haven't really seen anything. And to come off and be like he deserves to start after the product on the field last year, Kevin and I are like, it doesn't make sense.
No, I can see your side to it. I personally think he should get one more week. I think they should start him this weekend. I think Owen should start this weekend, and then you can evaluate from there. That's my personal opinion on it. I think he should start. But look, also, when you're comparing Entman and McNaney, I love McNaney. He's one of my favorite goalies. I think as a prospect, Liam is a whole another tier ahead of what Logan is. Like, Liam's a can't-miss goalie. Like, Logan, for as good as he is of a college player, we don't know if he's going to be how good of a pro he is or how good of a pro he will be. I know there was a lot of coaches and a lot of teams that had concerns about McNaney in the draft process coming out. I know he ended up being the first goalie taken off the board, but I had heard from a lot of people that some people were concerned how he would translate in the league. So I don't think it's one of those situations where you start Logan and you're like, he's going to be without a doubt a top 3-4 goalie in the league right away. Like, you have a guy on the bench like that. Like Liam, I felt like you were holding the team.
He doesn't have to be a top 3 or 4 goalie in the league, Hoagie. Right now, McElroy statistically, I believe, is the worst. So
I hear you, and I agree. And I think
he's just got to be not the worst.
Yeah, I personally, like I said, I've said it enough. I think you give Owen this weekend, and then you can evaluate from there if you coach Sudan.
If the Outlaws lose, who's starting next weekend?
If the Outlaws lose, I probably think they'll make the goalie switch. I'm talking with Kev about this on Saturday. A lot of times in life, what happens when stuff doesn't go your way? You look for something to put a Band-Aid on. Oh, if we just do this, that'll change. If we just move him from attack to midi, that'll fix it, right? Like, whenever you're losing, whenever stuff's down, someone's always going to want to make a change. That's probably going to be the obvious thing that people are just going to point to, and Sudan's going to most likely do it if things don't go their way. But I guess we'll see moving forward.
Do you believe McNaney is the goalie of the future for the Outlaws?
I think it's unproven. I think that's what they want him to be.
Answer the question, son.
I think they drafted him to be the goalie of the future. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Do
you think he actually is?
I don't know.
Do you think he has the ability to be?
He has the ability to be for sure, but time will tell. We have to see him play first.
Yeah, we do this week, starting.
Because
put down the iPad.
When I look,
put down the iPad.
Down the iPad. Pick up the stick. This weekend of PLL play is going to be elite. It's going to be exciting. If you're not watching this weekend, you're an absolute squid. But I think that segues us into probably the highlight of the show. Duke Cannon, work harder, smell better, moment of the week. Are we starting to call it Air Holman? Marcus Holman, the air gate, the buzzer beater again. I mean, I just think we need to do like some sort of statistics here on like a guy, I think he's in his 30s, 32, jumping like that, still has the whereabouts. They interviewed him after. What was going through your head? Nothing. I love that.
Dude, he's an absolute baller. It's like he was born. I mean, everyone grows up thinking about that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 has tried it. He actually got to do it in a game, like on ESPN. Like, dude, ultimate dream scenario, I think.
I mean, what a sicker goal, too. Like, who would have thought, like,
Dude, it's very similar to his one at Champ Series. He had not like a game winner, but remember he had that flying through the air goal at Champ Series? And it made Sports Center both times.
This was a tough week, too, to pick the Duke Cannon Work Harder, Smell Better moment of the week. I mean, I think how many plays? I think Chris Kavanagh's through the legs.
Yeah,
I think of Ryder Garnsey playing mini lax in the PLL, his wizardry on that assist to Dylan Malloy. I mean, we could have had like 4 Duke Cannon Work Hard, Smell Better moment of the week this week. Obviously,
what did you think about that? Because Sports Center had both of those plays on. Chris Kavanagh came in at number 1, and Marcus Holman came in at number 3. And all the comments were like, how is Marcus Holman not number 1?
Well, I think if we were looking at the actual plays, I think Chris's play was the best play of the week, the through the legs, then the Ryder play. But like the moment, obviously for the win on a air gate has to be the best play of the week. But like if we're talking solely like, wow, that was just completely ridiculous. Like Chris Kavanagh was just messing with those guys. Like if you looked, he could have shot it like regular. He like kind of took that half second, was like, screw it, I'm doing it. And then did it and scored. If you watch it like closely, he easily could have just finished regularly. And he kind of had that half second to do it. And then Ryder was just like, I mean, pure, you know, I talked about it on Twitter this morning. I said, I can't even imagine what type of stuff Mitch, Ryder, and Chris, and even Pat, when he was there, those guys were doing in pre-practice at Arlotta. Like, you know, we used to go out like 30 minutes early. Like, what do you think those guys were doing in an empty
in TLN with Peacock, they have that drill called like
the Chaos Drill.
The Chaos Drill. Yeah.
That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, literally.
Dude, one more note on Marcus Holman. Shout out Only Varro. He had an interview with him after the game, and he was like, when I was at UNC, I had the lowest vertical on the team. And it's like, dude, he reminds me of, we talk about like how he's an ageless wonder and how he keeps getting better and he's taking care of his body and he really, you know, he has the athleticism. He reminds me of Tom Brady when like Tom Brady was 45 and he would like beat his 40 time from when he was a draft prospect. That's Marcus Holman. He's gotten more athletic with age.
So sick. I mean, it's unreal to see. And obviously he's continues to kill it. Obviously, nothing like doing that in front of your dad.
Shout out to his pops too. I love his energy. His dad's, you know, always just jumping up and down. He's doing the hands. Like he's a legend. That one, Kev, where he is such a legend. Juice, man. He's juice.
But no, obviously no interview this week. We thought on-site past 2 weeks. Let's give it a break. Let's talk internally, lax only. But let's pivot to next week. Again, we already kind of mentioned it a ton. Week 3 of the league. It's a big one. Phillies weekend, Waterdogs playing back-to-back. Hoagie, talk about the standings for us again.
Yeah, so right now, obviously, if you're looking at the standings, the Redwoods are technically in first place there. The Canons are tied at 2-0, but the point differential is better for the Redwoods. So in the overall standings, they're at the top. I think just a quick disclaimer, I think we mentioned it last week, but to listeners who might have missed it, this year it's going to be the East versus the West winner. So you can't have 2 East teams playing the championship, can't have 2 West teams playing the championship. It's going to be top 3 from the East, top 3 from the West, Western Conference winner, Eastern Conference winner, they'll play in the championship. So the conference games mean more and more this year because the bottom team in each East and West are going to miss the playoffs. They're out. So, you know, there could be a scenario where the 4th place team on one side is really the 6th best team in the league, but, you know, the way it works, there's teams ahead of them, how it works. So Friday night's game's huge. It's Waterdogs homecoming, and you have 2 games that are for first place. Canons Waterdogs first game is for first place in the East. Redwoods Archers second game is for first place in the West. So 2 massive games to start off the PLL weekend next weekend. Even looking to Saturday, Atlas Whipsnakes, that's a massive game of the East as well. Loser goes to the bottom. You think, you know, the Atlas win that game. The Whipsnakes are 0-3. They're really at the bottom of that league. The Whips can somehow get a win there. You know, then you look at it and say, all right, well, what's wrong with the Atlas? Are they not as good as we thought too? So, and then you end it with the Waterdogs, Outlaws, Saturday Night Lacrosse. I'll tell you what. PLL Saturday Night Lacrosse has been one of my favorite things. So sick.
Sick.
Every weekend, Saturday night, I'm like, all right, I got PLL Lacrosse on, let's go. And I love the emphasis from the league to really make it big and known and you know, put an emphasis on, you know, this isn't just a regular game. This is Saturday Night Lacrosse. The graphics on the screen, you know, on the broadcast, so sick. I can't wait for that to just keep growing and growing as the years go on. But I'm just excited for another week of PLL Lacrosse. I'm kind of upset. It's Monday and we're filming this. I got to wait a couple more days for lacrosse.
I know. Soon enough, we might have some of these midweek games like we feel in college and in the NFL. But for you, Kev, are you a big fan of the Friday-Saturday? I know last year we had a ton of the Saturday-Sunday bits, but do you like the Friday-Saturday play?
I'm liking it so far, for sure. I'm curious. In a couple weeks, we're going to have a Saturday-Sunday, and I'll have a better answer for you then. But I do like having the Sunday to kind of decompress, maybe rewatch some of the games before we hop on Monday and record. So I feel a little more educated in my takes, I guess you could say, a little less emotional.
I like that. Should we do should we do picks live on
Let's
camera?
do picks live.
I feel
Let's
like
do
that's
picks
like
live.
Dukes is not. He said he's on vacation. He skipped this episode because he didn't want to do the picks. Right
He
now.
wanted to wait
Yeah.
till what Dukes did is he skipped it. He wanted to wait till the kids' votes got in because
Fade
he
the
always
kids.
fades the kids.
Yeah, and then
so
he
the
fades
kids'
them.
votes aren't out yet, so he doesn't want to lock it in.
Yeah, and then he's going to ask us to edit in post all his takes.
Yeah, I
from
know.
this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, I got him in too late. No. I'll actually start because I feel like you guys always start, and you guys always
Look,
maybe
I'm going to say this
potentially
too, though.
accuse me.
Before I don't know if we had this problem last year where they're like, I don't know if it was Miles or Dukes was like, no, I always go first. Like you're stealing my picks. Like I don't know how you guys think of it. I don't change my picks compared to what anyone else says. I have my picks that I'm taking, and then I say them regardless if you guys have or not. Because I feel like Duke sometimes too is like, you guys.
Kev doesn't do that.
Kev, you think?
Kev, speaking
Yeah,
of that,
Kev-
you go first.
yeah.
Kev's always copying
Mitch,
me.
yeah.
It's a.
See, he said it, Mitch. He said it.
I forgot
depends
about
on-
that. Now you're going first. Kev, your
Yeah.
picks are up.
All right. Okay. All right. So we start. We're all of my picks? Or are we going game by game?
We're going. Give us your 4 for this next
No,
weekend.
we'll all do. Oh, I was going
we
to say,
go
Mitch,
game
we'll
by
all
game.
do game 1, then we'll all do game
Yeah.
2.
Let's
Oh,
talk
okay.
Canons,
Yeah,
Water
yeah.
Dogs.
Mitch, me and you
Cannons,
are tied at the
Waterdogs
top
now.
right now. It's 7-1, Mitch. You've had a good start.
Yeah, see, this is why I have to go after Hoagie. All right, Cannons versus Water Dogs. I got a feeling, hey, Water Dogs went winless at their homecoming last year. I think things are different this year. I think the Water Dogs are going to win this game. Huge matchup, individual matchup to watch. I told you, I think Jack 𝐓𝐇𝐄 is my defensive player of the year to watch so far. Michael Sowers looks like the MVP frontrunner. Those two going up against each other. I think Sowers gets the best in that matchup and the Water Dogs win.
Yeah, that's a good pick. That's a good pick from Kev.
you
I'm
take
taking the
the pick, same
Cannons.
one?
I think the Cannons get this one.
Yeah.
I'm taking the
So am
Cannons.
I.
Cannons defense has been locked down all year to start. I think the Water Dogs, did they look great? Yes, they looked fantastic. But the first game of the year, we got to see it a little more. They did play the rookie goalie. They played the Whipsnakes, who might not have been as good as we thought. And I think the Canons, too, also just haven't played their best ball yet through the first 2 weeks. And they've already beaten the Atlas and the Archers. Those are 2 of the top-end wins in the league. I'm going to take the Canons this week.
Yeah, I got the Cannons as well. I think what Marks has been doing in that whole offense, Asher, like you said, right, Kev, 4 assists on the whole year, no goals yet. Like he's due, and I think what Coach has done and what that team's done this year is special. And I think it's interesting to see they're due for a PLO championship, right, back to back in Champ Series. It seems like they could potentially get it done. Obviously, coming up here in September. Let's go game 2, Redwoods versus Archers. Kev, who do you got?
All right, Redwoods for Archers. My first thought is I wish this was the Saturday night or
Yeah, me
either
too.
Saturday
I
night
thought
lacrosse
that
or
too.
the 1 p.m. ABC
Yeah.
game, just because I feel like this is going to be the game of the week. Man, Chris Cav versus Graham Hossack. Oh, my goodness gracious. I'm going to go with Archers here. I know the Redwoods are the up-and-coming team with all the hype. The Archers are the more proven team. I know they lost last week, but they just know how to gut it out when push comes to shove. I'm sticking with the Archers in this one. It's going to be a tough one. And if the Redwoods win it, then I'm all in on the Redwoods the rest of the way, probably.
So hard for me because I want to. Part of me says take the Redwoods because I think they're hot. Obviously, I love the Redwoods. They're my squad. But the other part of me says that this could be kind of one of those games where, it's kind of like, all right, like pump the brakes a little bit. Like you're coming, Redwoods. You're an up-and-coming team here. But like, let's not forget who's at the top right now. You know what I mean? Like one of those games. I'm going to take the Archers. I think the Archers win just by experience. I was a little concerned with what I saw from the Redwoods in that first quarter. They did scoreless first quarter before the gates kind of flooded open the rest of that game. I do think the Archers are going to, kind of be in the shadows here a little bit and kind of flex their muscles as, look, we're the champs. We're still here. Don't forget about us. When the whole world, I think all the kids are going to be on the Redwoods. So I'm going to take the Archers in this one.
I got the Woods. I got the Woods. And I just think Trader Joe, being Italian, the young roster, they got it going on. I feel like they got to continue to ride. He's done it time and time again. He done it with, the Team 91 squad with O'Neal, Mack, and Joey. He's done it with the Lizards back in 2015. He might do it here. I don't have them winning it all, but I think they're going to win. And I think the Archers still have a lot of question marks that if they can figure out, they can be a great team, but I don't think they figure it out.
Are you just concerned right now, Mitch, about the Archers because of the injuries? Like, if they're fully healthy, you think they're...
Well, I just think it's obviously Dobby's a little banged up, but they're just not clicking. Like, obviously Schreiber's coming off a banged up injury, but that was months ago. they're just not clicking. Like Kev, you said it too. Mac O'Keefe, not a point yet. Like that.
Not they got to get Sis going too. They got to get Sis going.
Yeah.
I will say one thing about this matchup that it'll be impressive if the Redwoods win it, because I think it's going to be a defensive matchup, which the last two games they've just kind of been able to pour it on offense. So this will be a different complexion this game.
Yeah, it'll be a slower, low scoring type game, which I also think kind of favors the Archers to a degree. I think the Redwoods are better in that shootout, freestyle flow, get that ball moving type of way. But for this is going to be, I think this is going to be game of the weekend personally. I think it's going to be an amazing game.
Interesting. Going against your team. I just want to put it out there, but I'm probably going to go against my team.
Yeah,
here
exactly.
Soon. Atlas versus Whipsnakes.
Mitch, remember what you said, man. Mitch, we're media members here, folks. We're not fans on the show.
We are. Yes.
I'm going with Atlas. They need this one. They had the week off, a chance to regroup. They were my pick to win it all this year. Entenmann's my pick to be MVP. He's got to play on that level. The Whipsnakes are hurting bad right now. I think that continues this week. Atlas win.
Yeah, I will say these two teams did play in week 3 last year in Minneapolis. This was coming off the Whipsnakes at 0-2 and the Atlas looking like the best team in the league. Offense was on another level, and the Whipsnakes actually won that game in Minneapolis and beat the Atlas. But this year, I think it's different. I think the Atlas, like you said, Kev, coming off a bye, those guys know what's at stake. Those guys know that they haven't lived up to expectations at all, really. They've had great rosters and haven't made runs. They know this is an all-in year. The Atlas take care of business.
Yeah, I'm going Atlas. I mean, I think they're my team to win it all, and I think they have the pieces to the puzzle. They're not flying up the charts like they did this time last year, but I think they're a team that are going to continuously get better, and they have the pieces, right? They have the pieces. Let's go Saturday Night Lacrosse, last game of Week 3, Dogs versus Outlaws. PLS Saturday Night Lacrosse. Kev, who do you have in this game?
Well, since Owen McElroy deserves to start this game, I think it's going to be another rough outing for the Denver Outlaws on defense now. I do think that the Waterdogs are going to win this game, and the Outlaws are going to find themselves 0-3 with 4 Thornton Award winners. And, you know, that's going to be a storyline. That is going to be a major storyline of what is wrong with the Outlaws. Why can't they get it together? But I think they're running into a buzzsaw, and the Waterdogs, they look hot. They look good. And I'm rolling with Philly to go 2-0 this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the numbers and the record since the back-to-back homecoming weekends, I think the majority of the time, pretty much every time the team splits, rarely do they go 0-2 or 2-0. Usually it's a 1-1 weekend. Watch, there's always one game that's a wild card. Watch, the Outlaws will somehow figure out how to pull this game off. But no, obviously I'm going to take the Waterdogs in this one. I think the Waterdogs roll, especially coming off a loss, I think Friday, the day before, they're going to come out Saturday Night Lacrosse, home crowd, pour it on, I think.
100%. And I second that, too. I think I got the Canons in the first game. I don't think the Dogs go 0-2 in their home city. And, again, the Outlaws, like, still a puzzle we need to put together there. So I'm picking the Waterdogs. I think it's going to be just so interesting. You said, what was that, July 11th that week? CJ comes back. I can't wait to replay kind of our conversation now towards then to see how they really fit CJ in, and that's going to be exciting. So I picked Dogs. That'll be interesting. You guys got our picks on the screen right now.
We got to get Dukes' picks, though, before this video goes live.
Yeah,
we got to get his picks before Wednesday.
We'll text him. We'll lock him in because he's, you know, we never know what he's going to be like. But no, next week, week 3 of the PLS season is going to be exciting. Obviously, winners are getting different placed in different standings. East and West is going to be exciting, so stay tuned. But let's finish off the episode with my favorite.
Mitch, we got some breaking news from AP.
We're live on set. What do we got?
There's a PLL trade. The Chaos is sending LSM Jack McDonald to the Whipsnakes in exchange for Scott Smith. Now, this is interesting because McDonald was taken number 16 in the draft. Scott Smith was taken with the next pick at 17.
Yeah, so
that's an interesting trade.
I saw you drop the note, and I've been trying to make heads or tails of this while we were doing all those picks, and I'm pretty confused. It feels like, to me, the Whipsnakes just did the Chaos a massive favor. Like, they could have had Scott Smith, and they picked Jack McDonald, who hasn't played for the Chaos yet. That's got me wondering now. Like, does Jack McDonald, former Terp, want to play with the Whipsnakes and that's who he wants to play with. I don't know. And then Scott Smith, like that, he's a dog. And like,
he just scored a 2-point goal this
just
weekend.
had a 2-point goal. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, that does not make a ton of sense to me. It feels like the Whips maybe needed a LSM. And so
this is another head scratcher from Stags for me.
Stags
again.
See, it's one of those things. The
Oh my
amount of
God.
wins, what he's done in the past, like you just can't question it. I think still.
But to me, I think like Kev said, the chaos got better out of this trade. The chaos.
Yeah.
I love Jack McDonald as a college player. Obviously, he's amazing. You bring another Terp to that Maryland team. McDonald's a legend. He's also a big frog hitter, Mitch, from back in the day.
He's a big frog hitter.
So he's got that off the field too. But to me, Scott Smith obviously had a great career at Hopkins. You got the Hopkins-Maryland swap there too, which is interesting. The crab battle rivalry there. But Scott Smith played well, I thought, this weekend. He had a goal. Stags to make that move. I don't know how it came to be, who initiated it or what, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't do anything. I mean, it wouldn't change my pick'ems on it, but it just kind of an interesting trade.
It doesn't change mine either.
to me, it feels like the Whips
weeks.
did him a huge favor.
Yeah, that's...
and also we have to talk about like the chaos draft in general. Like we still haven't seen Owen Hiltz. He's obviously got the Canadian visa thing. Levi Virch has played, but Jack McDonald hadn't played yet, and now they're trading him before he's ever played, and they had no picks after that. They had no 3rd rounder, no 4th rounder. So all they've gotten out of their draft so far is Levi Virch.
I mean, the Maryland polls this year were awesome. McDonald, who else? Will Schaller, AJ Kohler. Like the polls were active. McDonald was obviously great. So we'll see when he gets in. Stags might look like a legend if he balls out, but just a weird trade.
Just confirms to me that Jack McDonald was a panic pick. Jack McDonald was a panic pick because they wanted Dylan Hess. And Dylan Hess went 1 pick before them, and they were
So
like,
they had to put the card in. Yeah.
What do we do? And they just like put the card in. It was Jack McDonald. And then they saw, the guy that got picked next, we actually should have picked him. Like, it's so weird to trade for a guy after the guy you drafted, you haven't even seen him play yet.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's just a
He's got away though. Now let's move in to potentially my favorite, Hoagie's favorite, Kev's favorite segment of this whole bit. Start, bench, cut. This week we're doing lacrosse heads. We haven't done lacrosse heads yet. We've done socks, we've done stadiums, we've done fans, but we haven't done heads yet. And start, bench, cut, a white factory head, a solid color of your picking, or a crazy dye. Start, bench, cut, Hoagie, start us off.
Yeah, I'm starting the custom design. I think the custom design is sick. I think it depends where you go. I think obviously there's crazy ones that you can do that are insane with, all these colors and detail, which is awesome. What comes to mind, Mitch, for me for the custom design is kind of like your head they use at Ohio State for like the videos, Mitch, where it's like the half fade has the block O on it, has your last name, has your number. So nothing too crazy that pops off the page, but just like a little cool detail. I think it's always cool when you see guys who have heads that are, maybe has their high school logo and their area code or in their college number, like an ode kind of their journey and their career, I think is very special, very cool. So I'm going to start the custom design. I'm going to bench the white head. I think the white head's iconic. White head as a Fogo, I'm using the white head. That's really all we can use. They don't really have too much dye and stuff there, but the white just, the all white stick's a story old as time. That says lacrosse, classic. White stick,
Can't
white
beat
ball,
tradition.
get it to go. And I'm cutting the solid color. I think it's a little bland. I think if you're going to put a dye on your head, I think you do a custom design. That's my thought process on it. Why go solid when you can add a little bit of pop to it?
Kev?
Well, first of all, I know you love when I give answers on swag and style.
I was going to say, did they have dye back in the day?
I'm the authority on this, dude. I've dyed my own heads like before they even like had lacrosse dyes.
The Rit dye.
Yeah, the Rit dye.
The Rit dye
back in the day. I ruined so many heads doing that, trying to pinch it and stuff like that.
Yeah, put it in the microwave.
Exactly. Yeah, you live and you learn. But I'm gonna start the solid color. I think that's a clean, little bit of a pop, little bit of flavor, but it's not too much. And I'm sorry, but you got to have all white strings. If you got the solid color head, I want white mesh.
Maybe a colored nylon, but besides that, nothing.
You can do a colored shooter, I feel like.
Yeah, a colored shooter, something like that.
The mesh has got to be white.
Yeah.
Mesh has got to be white. Personally, I want the shooters, I want the nylons, I want the sidewall strings, I want everything white. The head can be a different color. Then I'm going to bench the all white head. Again, if you want to add a little flair with a colored shooter or whatever there, that's cool. That's fine. But honestly, white is clean. It works all the time. No one's going to chirp you for having a white head. And then custom design, honestly, I think it's just like a little loud. It's a little look at me. I'm going to cut it. And honestly, if you're going to have a crazy design or something, you better be willing to talk about it or have it posted on the internet. If you're going to put the villain on your head, everyone's got to know about it.
The first
100%,
custom head that
100%.
reminds me right now, I think of Chris Kavanagh's head that kid made for him and gave to him at that one game that he's used the second half of the year at Notre Dame, and he's still using it now, which I think is so cool. I don't know what that little kid's name is, but shout out to whoever that is you're watching.
Yeah,
that's
shout
so
out
sick.
legend. Shout out to Chris for doing that. Like that's sick.
so
I don't
sick.
remember a time and period where a college lacrosse player has done that. So kudos.
He's still using it now in the
He's still
pros
using
too,
it in the
which I think
league,
is
which is
awesome.
sick. Yeah.
That is sick. I like that. For me, I'm starting the white head.
Wow.
I'm a big believer in it. You know why? Because for me as a player, if I had a custom stick or if I had a solid color stick, it drew more attention to me and it kind of messed with my head. Like I felt like I needed to play insane to kind of live up to that.
You saying you
And
don't
also,
like attention?
Not on the field. I was not
you
an
use the
attention
white-
guy on the field.
Did you not use the red head at Ohio State or use the white?
I never did.
Oh, I'm
never
thinking
did.
of that. I'm thinking of that solid red stick that you had. Maybe you never used
I
it.
used
might
that
have
for
just-
the videos. Used
the
that for the
videos.
videos.
Yeah.
I used a fade dye and a red dye in the videos, but playing, I don't even think it was really a thing we could do at Ohio
Was
State.
there even a guy on the team that had a dyed stick? I don't think
It
so.
was really an Ohio State rule. Now I look at like the Syracuse and Virginias with McCabe and Spallina. Like there's some sick dyes out there, and I think if you're that level of a player, I think you should do it. But for myself, I was a white dye, and then I'm benching solid color. I just think it's kind of the tier list. Like if you have this crazy dye, like you need to play insane to live up to that. It's like the same thing if you were to rock like some crazy like socks or shorts. Like you're
cock
either the
wagons or
sickest
something.
guy. Roll the clip.
See, but I don't think that, like I said before, I'm not talking like craziest dye you've ever seen. I think like your Ohio State head, Mitch, that has your number, it says Buckeyes on it, has the block O. I think that's subtle enough where it's not over the top. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a solid color head with a little bit of You wouldn't see the details unless you're holding the stick in your hand. I get what you're saying.
100%.
If you have some crazy stick that neon yellow and you come out of the box and everyone's looking at you, yeah, that's way too much. I guess what I mean by custom design when I'm starting is I like a little bit of detail. I think that's cool to have something specifically about you kind of on your stick where only you really see it if you have it in your hand.
Now with these photographers today and the cameras they got, every detail.
Yeah, I mean, true. I just liked, Mitch, your head is my ideal head, that head, whoever did that dye job for you.
Well, the head I had was a red head, and it had a white 25, I think, Pehlke, and a block O.
Yeah, that's it.
So in my head, in my eyes, though, that doesn't even really count as like a dyed head.
So
like
do you
I'm
count
thinking
that as
like
a
a
solid?
fade with a couple. I count that more as a solid.
Yeah.
And again, for custom dye, I'm cutting that because I just think it's too much. But I like it. Like if you're a flashy player, you need to have flashy head. The Cavs, McCabe, Spallina, like it all flows for those guys.
I kind of think of like Michael
trenches.
Leo too, with the cleats he wears, like
Michael
the flashy
Leo.
cleats.
Yes.
Those are sick.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Last segment, best segment, newest segment. We're always going to end with no more of the Dukes fun fact. He's kind of melted on that. I know he's not on the show. Somebody tell him. But we're going to end with ball knower of the week. We got producer Core on the ones and twos. He has a trivia question that none of us know that he's going to ask so we can run around with the title of ball knower of the week. For the rest of the PLO season, potentially the guy that's got the least tallies might be doing something. Stay tuned. Core, what do we
Here
got
he goes
this week?
again, doing a challenge that he. Here he goes, Kev. Here he.
Yeah, you keep track of all these somewhere? Corey is, hopefully.
All right, ball knower of the week. Looking forward to these PLL games going in Philly this weekend. Who was the head coach of the Philadelphia Barrage for the 2006 and 2007 championship seasons?
Holy shnikes, you got to be an absolute
It wasn't Dave Cottle, was it?
rat to know this.
The head coach of the Philadelphia Barrage for the 06 and 07 championship seasons.
I think
Was it
Is it like a
Tony Resch?
known guy?
Cottle was the Bayhawks, I think. It wasn't Cottle.
It wasn't Resch?
Full name?
Tony Resch?
Bingo.
Wow, Kev.
Are you serious, Kev?
Come see me.
Mitch,
Ball knower of the
Mitch,
week.
You
Ball
forget
knower of the
he's
week.
he's Mitch. I don't even know if we were born during that day.
Dude, we weren't even born. I was in kindergarten. That shouldn't count. Kev was 16.
Dude, respect the elderly. That's why Dukes isn't here. Elderly win. The elderly win.
Dukes would have said that barrage title doesn't even count.
Yeah, seriously. That's actually a sick question.
Yeah,
and
that's
Kev,
sick.
kudos to you. Clap
I'm
it up
excited for this
Kev.
series. Kev, great job.
Dude, one of the greatest defensive coaches of all time.
That's sick. Shout out Tony, fellow Italian, had to get it in. But that's going to wrap up episode 20 in the books. We will see you guys next week as we tackle week 3, potentially one of the best weeks of the whole entire year. Kev, any last words?
Dude, every week is the best week of the entire year when I get to spend it with you guys.
Bang! See you guys next week.